In 1995, Maurizio Gucci wraps up his meal and hops on his bike to head home. We hear his wife, Patricia Reggiani, portrayed by Lady Gaga, reflecting on the allure of the Gucci name, describing it as both captivating and a burden. As Maurizio arrives at his residence, a voice calls out to him. The scene shifts back to the 1970s, where Patricia is working as a secretary in her family's trucking business, where she forges signatures on checks. A friend named Max invites her to a party, where she first encounters Maurizio, who is tending bar. Upon discovering his connection to the Gucci family, Patricia is instantly intrigued. They share a dance and a spark ignites between them. Later, Patricia follows Maurizio to the library, where he notices her presence. They strike up a conversation, and Maurizio reveals his aspiration to become a lawyer. Their chemistry grows, leading Patricia to persuade him to take her out on a date. When he calls her, they enjoy a delightful day in the city, savoring food together before taking a boat ride on the lake. They are watched by a man named Franco. Maurizio invites Patricia to meet his father, Rodolfo, and they share a lunch together. During the meal, Rodolfo seems to look down on Patricia's involvement in her family's business. The conversation shifts when Rodolfo mentions his past as an actor, which is how he met Mauricio's mother. Later, Rodolfo expresses his distrust of Patricia, viewing her as merely a social climber after his wealth. He even hired Franco to keep tabs on them, uncovering more about Patricia's history. Despite his father's concerns, Maurizio stands by Patricia, declaring his love for her. Determined to prove his commitment, Maurizio visits Patricia's parents to share his decision to leave his affluent lifestyle behind and work for their family business until he can marry Patricia. He starts working there and finds genuine satisfaction in the work. Their relationship deepens, culminating in a passionate encounter in her father's office. Eventually, they marry, a development that catches the attention of Mauricio's uncle Aldo. Aldo approaches Rodolfo about expanding the Gucci brand into malls, but Rodolfo dismisses the idea. The topic of Maurizio and Patricia's marriage arises, and Rodolfo feels estranged from his son. Aldo warns Rodolfo that he risks growing old and lonely if he doesn't reconcile with Maurizio. Later, Aldo reaches out to invite Maurizio and Patricia to his 70th birthday celebration. Initially hesitant, Maurizio is persuaded by Patricia and Aldo to attend. At the party, they encounter a lively gathering, including Aldo's clumsy son Paolo, Jared Leto, who aspires to become a designer within the family. However, Aldo discourages him, leading to a heated argument between them. On their way home, Patricia surprises Maurizio with 2 tickets to New York that Aldo gifted them for a trip together. At night, Patricia finds herself captivated by a commercial featuring a psychic named Giuseppe. Intrigued, she decides to call Pina to inquire about her future success. Although Pina's response is somewhat ambiguous, she quickly recognizes Patricia's strong desire for achievement across all aspects of her life, assuring her that she will attain everything she desires. Later, at Aldo's birthday celebration, Maurizio and Patricia are once again approached by Aldo, who tries to persuade them to relocate to New York. Patricia discusses the opportunity with Maurizio, emphasizing that it could bring new prospects for their family. In a moment of excitement, she reveals that she is pregnant. Maurizio ultimately agrees to the move to New York. The couple settles into a luxurious new apartment with stunning city views and begins collaborating with Aldo to grow the Gucci brand. Meanwhile, in Italy, Paolo brings Rodolfo some of his design concepts. Rodolfo advises him to keep them under wraps, which Paolo misinterprets as a fear of theft, not realizing that Rodolfo actually believes Paolo lacks the talent to succeed in the industry. After Rodolfo departs, Paolo vows to showcase his designs independently, even going so far as to desecrate a piece of Rodolfo's fabric. Patricia gives birth to their daughter, Alessandra, named in honor of Mauricio's mother. They later visit a frail Rodolfo to share the joyous news. Rodolfo expresses his pride and tells Maurizio that the Gucci legacy is now in his hands. Sadly, shortly after, Rodolfo passes away, and the family gathers to mourn at his funeral. Patricia and Maurizio meet with family business partner Domenico da Sole, who feels that Rodolfo never finalized his death certificate. To inherit, Maurizio must either pay $14 billion in taxes or sell his Gucci shares. Patricia distrusts Domenico. Later, Patricia consults Pina for advice on maintaining her stake in the business, while Aldo offers Maurizio a job at one of his stores. Patricia discovers their housekeeper has a counterfeit Gucci bag and buys several replicas, showing them to Maurizio, who is indifferent. This leads Patricia to call him a cretin, which he resents. They involve Aldo, who sees profit in the fakes, but Patricia warns it could harm the brand, to which Aldo dismisses her concerns. At a 1983 Versace fashion show in Milan, Maurizio meets designer Walter, who comments on Gucci's decline. Patricia overhears and criticizes Maurizio for not reaching his potential, insisting they must eliminate Aldo and Paolo from the business. Domenico reveals Paolo plans to launch his own line, prompting Patricia to suggest they persuade him against competing with Gucci. Patricia arranges a private meeting with Paolo, appealing to his vanity to persuade him to let her and Maurizio market his designs under the Gucci name for a lucrative deal. Meanwhile, Aldo is arrested for tax evasion and sentenced to a year in prison, causing Paolo to worry about potential legal issues. During a fashion show, Paolo is served a cease and desist order, leading to the confiscation of his assets and the abrupt end of the event, leaving his wife Jenny embarrassed as she performs solo on stage. In a confrontation, Paolo accuses Patricia and Maurizio of conspiring against him, after which Patricia expresses interest in buying Paolo's shares in Gucci. Later, when Maurizio learns that officers are at their home to seize assets, he escapes on a motorcycle, leaving Patricia devastated and suspecting Paolo's involvement. Maurizio crosses into Italy and unexpectedly reunites with an old friend, Paola Franchi. Eventually, Patricia introduces Alessandra to Maurizio, leading to her meeting Paola and her friends. During lunch with friends, Patricia feels unhappy with how Maurizio talks about her. They later argue, with Maurizio accusing her of manipulating him and expressing distrust at their issues. She decides to spend Christmas with him for Alessandra's sake, surprising him with a thoughtful gift, while he gives her a gift card. That night, Maurizio reveals he plans to send Patricia and Alessandra back to Milan, showing he has lost interest in her. He begins an affair with Paola and seeks help from investor Namir Kurder for his business. Aldo is released from prison and reunites with Paolo, who admits to selling his Gucci shares, angering Aldo. They meet with Namir to negotiate Aldo's share sale, but when Aldo learns of Mauricio's involvement, he calls him a traitor. Aldo sheds a few tears but ultimately signs the contract. Later, Domenico tracks down Patricia to share the news that Maurizio plans to divorce her and seeks joint custody of Alessandra. In a conversation with Pina, Patricia starts to piece together that Maurizio is involved with another woman. Meanwhile, Maurizio is determined to revive Gucci's glory, meeting with top designers like Anna Wintour in search of new collaborations. Domenico introduces him to Tom Ford, who promises to support Mauricio's vision. When Patricia confronts him, pleading for him to return, he firmly rejects her and their daughter. In her frustration, she begins leaving menacing voicemails for both him and Paola. Patricia and Pina then meet with two hired assassins, Ivano Savioni and Benedetto Cerullo, commissioning them to track down and eliminate Maurizio. After a successful fashion show, Maurizio enjoys dinner with Domenico, Tom, Namir, and other investors, who propose purchasing Mauricio's Gucci shares for $150 million, which would enhance Domenico's control over the company. Realizing the truth in Patricia's words, Maurizio angrily throws his dinner plate to the ground. On the morning of March 27, 1995, after finishing his lunch, Maurizio rides his bike home, unaware that Ivano and Benedetto are lying in wait for him. Benedetto spots Maurizio, steps out of the car, and approaches him, calling his name before firing 3 shots and fleeing the scene. Meanwhile, Patricia anxiously awaits news, jotting down Paradise in her journal. She later visits Mauricio's home with Alessandra to comfort a heartbroken Paola, only to coldly suggest that she leave her residence. Fast forward 2 years, and we find Patricia, Pina, Ivano, and Benedetto facing trial. The judge repeatedly refers to Patricia as Signora Reggiani, but she insists, "You can call me Signora Gucci." The concluding text reveals that all 4 were arrested and found guilty of Mauricio's murder. Patricia received a 29-year prison sentence, released after 18. Pina was sentenced to 25 years, Ivano to 26 years, and Benedetto was given life imprisonment. Aldo succumbed to prostate cancer in 1990, while Paolo faced poverty in London 5 years later. The same year Maurizio was killed, the Gucci brand went public, with Domenico and Tom at the helm in the 90s, and today it is led by Alessandro Michele and Marco Bizzarri. Gucci stands as one of the most prosperous brands, boasting an estimated net worth of $60 billion. Yet, none of the Gucci family members are currently involved with the company. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure.